Hello everyone, for Channel 6 TV Community Focus, I'm Dennis George, and continuing with our interviews of candidates on the ballot locally, including the Marion County Board of Education, where some seats are being contested, and one of those is in District 5, where Jerry Evans is the current school board representative, and he's on the ballot against Brad Cox. And Jerry, thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
And again, we're asking similar questions to all of the candidates, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to speak to our viewers and kind of introduce yourself to them, and for those who may not know you, let them know a little bit about Jerry Evans.
Great, thank you. I'm a resident of Marion County, have been for the past 10 years. I guess you could say even further back than that. I married a young lady from here 62 years ago. It was one of those marriages they said that'll never last. So I'm pleased to say 62 years later, here we are. Some people may know the Monsignor that married us, Nicholas H. Gettelfinger, I think
Monsignor
his name
Gettelfinger.
was. Monsignor Gettelfinger. And anyhow, so that began my affiliation with Lebanon back in 60 some years ago when I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Met my wife, and we have one child and two grandchildren. And we were living in Cincinnati. I retired from DuPont Corporation back in 1995, I believe it was, somewhere around there. And we built our dream home, retirement home in Louisville, Kentucky. Beautiful home, loved it. But we were in Lebanon almost every weekend. We had a little piece of rental property here. We'd come and stay there. And I finally told her, I said, hey, if we're there every weekend, we may as well move there. And I tell you, out of all the places I've been in my numerous years of traveling, it was probably one of the best decisions that she and I made. The pace of life is much slower than it was in Chicago, much slower than it was in Washington, D.C. You can get from one side of town to the other in 5 or 10 minutes. People talk about traffic congestion. There isn't any here compared to places I've lived. And as many of you probably know, I've really delved into the community. I've become a very active person in the community. Co-founder of the Marion County Youth Center with Dawn, her name used to be Spalding. McCauley, yes. And Desmond Spalding was one of the ventures. Also, I ventured into leasing the laundromat locally here in town. I belong to my church, serve as a deacon in my church, and also do Bible study every Tuesday night down at the prison. And just try to get involved in the community, try to give back some of what has been given to me over the years in more ways than one. I find this to be a very comfortable community in which to live, and I find there are many challenges here, not the least being our school system.
Okay. Typically, we'll ask Brad, what makes someone decide to put their name on the ballot? You were appointed to fill a vacant seat a few years ago, and now you're on the ballot. What makes someone like Jerry Evans want to be a member of the Marion County Board of Education?
I think it's self-satisfaction, self-satisfaction and being a part of something that you see growing. And certainly I've accepted many challenges in my life, and this was one of them, being on the school board. When I was appointed to the school board, I really didn't know what I was getting into, but I thought this is another opportunity to serve the community, to give back. And I saw a need from the outside looking in to get involved in our school system and try to make it a better school system than what we had at that time. And as I look back over the 3 years, appointed and then elected to the school system, I truly could say that I think I've made a difference. Not me alone, but me collectively with the other board members.
Okay. Obviously, the biggest issue in the community today is the facilities that we have, and the same day they're going to go to vote in your race, people in Marion County will also be asked to vote for or against the nickel tax.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that, how you feel about it, and your hopes and desires.
Okay. Well, I guess this would help a lot of people decide whether they're going to vote for me or not. I am in favor of the recallable nickel. I see that as the only way for us to get out of a situation that the school system presently is in. We want to prepare our youth, and I say our with a very possessive terminology, our youth, so that they can compete not only in Lebanon, not only in the surrounding counties, but maybe even worldwide. And within the confines and with the restraints of the present buildings that we have, physical structures of the building, they just can't do that. We made a lot of progress over the years in getting the next gen lab in place and getting the bus in place and getting our students so they compete on extended levels. But within the confines of the buildings we have, 30-some years old plus, with the septic system being such as it is, with the lack of electrical outlets, with the duplication of teaching aspects in one room. You know, the place at Lebanon Elementary is called the Cafegematorium, and it aptly describes it as a cafeteria, it's a gymnasium, it's an auditorium, and I think even serves as a nurse's station there. These are just, you know, areas in which our staff has done an excellent job. If you look at the reports we get back, our students of progress, our staff has done an excellent job. Think how much more they could do to prepare our students, and I say that very possessively, our students, if they had better facilities, if they had more modern technology. They wouldn't be so labor intense in getting them to achieve the results we have achieved, or even greater results.
Okay, and you know, perhaps about the time you came onto the board, there was a little bit of turmoil in the system. Superintendent Schlosser has less than a year on her current contract. I don't know, and I don't know that any of the board members know if she's interested in continuing 4 more years. Your grade, your review of Superintendent Schlosser, if she wanted more time, would you vote to extend her contract? And what type job do you think the superintendent has done in Marion County?
Let me go from the bottom to the top on that. I endorse and commend Superintendent Schlosser for what she's done in the position in which she serves. Now let me get to the other part of the question. I represent District 5 and thereby the constituents therein. I vote what they tell me to vote. And I talk with the people in District 5, and although I may not agree with what they tell me, I vote what they tell me to vote. If you may have looked at the records, I voted not to extend her contract the last time by virtue of the fact that she did not comply with the contract that was presently in place. We would have that same obstacle to confront at the next period if I'm reelected to the board. And I will again represent District 5 and how the people therein tell me to vote as their representative.
All right, then along that line, let's because you say she's done a good job. And if her contract came up, I guess the way I read it, you would want her to be living here as part of her new contract? Is that kind of where you are?
I would want one of two things. I would want to either alter the contract, which we can do. We've talked to our board attorney. Alter the contract, or yes, have her move within the boundaries of Marion County.
Okay, so your constituents, they say we want her moving here if she gets a new contract. And I understand you represent them, but if she is doing a commendable job and the system is moving in the right direction, which way, so if that became a sticking point, which is more important to you as a board member and to the community?
Well, when you ask me which is more important to me as a board member, which is more important to me as a board member is that I vote what my district, how my district tells me to vote. As an individual, I might alter that as an individual, but I'm not an individual. I'm representing the thousands of people that live in my district. And I feel obligated, if they have enough confidence in me to put me in that position, back in that position, I feel obligated and I feel a moral sense to do what they tell me to do.
Okay. As a board member, transparency sometimes has been a criticism, whether it be spending or other decisions that are made. Can you talk about that a little bit, maybe address that?
Sure. We oftentimes, as a board, make decisions that are not popular in the community. I think one of the shortcomings, or one of the reasons they're not popular in the community, because the community doesn't know all the rationale or logic that goes into making that decision, whatever that decision may be. And what I would say to that, and I said in my article in the paper yesterday or today, whatever is coming out, our books are open to the public. I've had occasion to call our financial officer when I didn't fully understand, what line item so-and-so was, and just sit down with her and get a full explanation. And Lisa Cowell, she's out ill right now, but she has been very, very accommodating And our books is open law policy. You know, someone wants to find out what's going on, and they don't want to take it from Jerry Evans, get an audience with the financial officer or whomever serves in that capacity. And the books are open; they are there. And a lot of times, people will come to a conclusion based on a lack of information. I'm not criticizing the members of my district at all, but I'm just saying sometimes if you're not totally informed, then you can't be totally recognize why decisions were made.
All right, during your time on the board, if you had to say, this is what I'm most proud of that we've accomplished, and understanding also that it is a collaborative effort between board members, superintendent, administration, and other school personnel, what would you say you're most proud of?
I think most recently would be the fact that we've moved all 4 of our elementary schools into the distinguished category. Never done before. Never done before. And I think the second thing would be the cohesiveness with which we as a board work. Is that to say that we're all lined up going the same direction? It's to say we're all lined up going the same direction. We may want to get there in a different way. But if you see a board, I think, that votes 5-0, that's good, or is it? If you see a board that votes 3-2, that tells me that people are thinking, that people don't necessarily agree with it just because you're the most vocal person on the board. So I think we have a board that speaks its mind, that is aware of the challenges that we face, is aware of some of our limitations, is aware of the need for change, is aware of retaining some things as is. And we all look and delve into that on an individual basis.
Okay. All right, let's throw out the fact that the nickel tax may not pass and you're going to face more challenges with facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing that out the window and not talking about it, what are the challenges facing the Marion County Board of Education moving forward after this election?
Without a nickel tax?
Without the nickel tax.
They're going to be difficult. I'm not going to use the word impossible. They're going to be difficult. We've been blessed in that we've been able to, let me see, people categorize it differently. Some people say we have an emergency fund. Some people say we have a contingency fund. Some people say we have excess monies. We have none of those three. We have money that is there, which we've been able to put aside in case of an emergency. So we will have to utilize that money in case a roof leaks, in case a cooling system goes down. So that's what that money is earmarked for, and that's what it will be used for. Can we build a building with that money? No, there's not enough money there to do that. And I think some people lose track, and I'm going to digress a moment if you'll allow me, where some people get confused is that if we have, now don't take me to task for this and say, he said you got $2 million. If we have $2 million in contingency fund, okay, that's $2 million. If we pass a recallable nickel tax and we're able to get a bond for, say, $5 million, the state will match that with $5 million. You've doubled your money. You've doubled your capability of money to build, and it's specified you can only do one of two things, build or renovate the buildings. And as I look at that, I said I was going to digress, and I am. If I look at that and I see Nelson County, millions of dollars since 2008 when this nickel tax was first on the ballot. Washington County, millions of dollars. Taylor County, millions of dollars. Marion County, zilch, nada, not a penny. And you know where that matching money comes from? Out of your pocket and mine. You pay state taxes, right?
I hope so. My brother tells me I do at the end of the year when he does my taxes.
That's where those matching funds come from.
Right.
So why should we be building buildings over in Washington County, Taylor County, Nelson County? Our students don't get any use of that money at all, particularly since the state will match it with my money and your money we're paying into state funds to begin with.
Okay.
And the word I get is that there's a strong possibility those matching funds may go away. There's nothing that says that next year they're going to say, okay, we're going to match the funds again. It could go away. Now your $5 million is $5 million.
Mm-hmm. All right. What other issues, other than the buildings and the maintenance, do you look at that will be a challenge for you?
Retention of our qualified personnel. Now we do, on an annual basis, perhaps even more frequently than that, look at the salary structures of surrounding counties, and we see where we are. We just raised our bus drivers' salaries because they were so low compared to to Nelson and Taylor and other surrounding counties. So we look at that, and we know that if we're going to retain the quality caliber of personnel we have within the confines of our system, now we've got to be competitive. We've got to be competitive.
In those ways, you're no different than industries in the community who may bring an engineer in, he can do better somewhere else, or someone on the line can make $12.50 here but can go somewhere else and make $17. And people say, well, school teachers are overpaid, but you're competing for the same pool of workers that other school systems are working for.
Absolutely.
Or looking for.
Absolutely. And people will say that, and I was under the labored under a false illusion myself. You know, they work 6 months out of a year. The summer they're off. If you saw the programs our teachers have to go to during the summer months, the training programs they have to go to, or even the board has to go to. I was at a program last night over in E-Town. I mean, you know, that's nothing I really wanted to do, but it's part of the obligation I assumed when I was elected to this position. But if people looked at, you know, how many hours those teachers put in, you know, in addition to their regular classroom work, you don't just walk in the classroom at 9 o'clock, say, okay, let's go. They've done some preparation the night before. They spent some monies out of their pocket to buy, you know, crayons and paper and things like that that they don't get from the school system. So those are some of the challenges that people don't see that our teachers face every day.
Obviously, from your answers, you support the nickel tax, and I guess like other board members, you are on record that through your term there will not be the 4% that you're allowed to vote on each year, that the board would pass on taking that 4% raise. Are you in line with that as well?
No, I'm not on record as that, because knowing that my term was up that I was up for re-election, I did not.
All right. If you are elected, would you vote to? And the nickel tax passes. Both are successful on election day. Would you next year, when the proposal comes up, if the nickel tax passes, and to leave the tax rate as is, where would you stand on that?
Is that on? I would agree to leave it where it is. If the recall nickel tax passed, I would not impose a double tax on a community.
Okay. Along that line, and I guess in closing, your appeal, your plea, your argument why Jerry Evans should be reelected to represent District 5 on the Marion County School Board.
I think it's very simply caught on a little placard that I had made up. I want to give you one of these too. It says, "Do not disturb."
Okay. You stole that out of a hotel, didn't you?
No, I had these made up, because on the backside it says, "Re-elect Jerry Evans. Don't disturb progress. Don't stop the school system doing what they're doing now. Let's keep it intact, and let's move to higher levels, and we can do that."
Okay, I thought you stayed, when you went to E-Town, you stayed over there last night and you brought
No.
All right, Jerry, we appreciate your time, and as I've told several candidates, it's admirable that people want to be involved enough, and it takes a lot to go down to the courthouse and file to put your name on a ballot. A lot of people can be critical, but very few of those people will take that next step and say they want to make a change and put their name on a ballot.
Absolutely.
And want to commend you for doing that and wish you well on November the 8th.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's Jerry Evans, the incumbent representative for District 5 on the Marion County Board of Education. For Channel 6 TV Community Focus, I'm Dennis George.